Hello guys, and welcome back to HJW Gaming. This time, continuing on my commander guides and looking back at a popular tier 3 commander in Aragorn King of Men. Aragorn King of Men is a commander I've had quite a lot of success with so far this season using, but it's someone I don't really see very often sitting in the meta, which I think is a shame, as he can be, as you'll see, a fantastic damage dealing commander. Now, looking at his stats, as you'll see, he has a very strong base damage stat of 21 to 24, as well as reasonably mediocre HP. But the main thing that he has that stands out for him is that Aragorn King of Men has a very strong command stat, especially for a damage dealing commander. If I compare this to Dane Ironfoot, for example, who currently also has no equipment, he only has that minimum 30 command, whereas Aragorn King of Men, as his base stat, has 164 command, as you'll see here, which means that he receives over 10% less damage than Dane would, and his army can actually deal an additional 10% damage. So that means you can get just a little bit more from him and from his troops. You know, those troops won't die as quickly as they will on other damage dealing commanders, which I think sets him apart from some of the other damage dealers. Outside of that, he does also have a strong attack stat, as you'd imagine, as well as decent defense. His focus is actually pretty reasonable as well, again, for a damage dealing commander, as well as his initiative. Unfortunately, his attack is a little bit lackluster, I suppose, compared to some of the other damage dealers, which really is the reason why he doesn't output the same damage as a comparable tier 3 like Dane Ironfoot. As you can see here, 73 attack at 0.81 per level, whereas we only get the 0.66 per level on Aragorn King of Men. So if you want to output very high damage with him, you are going to be relying on your gear, or leaning on your gear a lot more to help output that, to increase that attack to output that damage. Speaking of gear and equipment, we'll take a look at that now. So, the best item you can put in him, the best in slot, will be the Axe of Khazad-dûm 2.0, same as any other damage dealing commander. Reason being is it has that very large damage stats to push Aragorn's damage up, as well as a very high, the highest in fact, damage available to you. So equipping that to him will see you get a huge jump in attack and damage, so his skills will inflict a huge amount more damage. If you're looking for alternatives, the Black Bow is probably the second best, as it is second best as far as attack goes, as well as having, again, a good damage output. And the Blazing Tongue can also be a very good choice. It doesn't have quite as much attack. It does have very good damage, though in a higher range. But the one benefit you get from the Blazing Tongue is if you're confident that you can win your seasons, the Blazing Tongue is available from your season end reward chest currently, so you can get a lot more of them with more regularity, so you can get a lot more refines, so it's at least a little bit more reliable being able to pick these up, whereas you can never guarantee the other items what you're going to get in your Matham chest. But again, as I said, I'd recommend the Axe of Khazad-dûm. If you're looking for an exquisite rarity item, the best you can get is the Battle Axe, as it offers again the highest amount of attack and the highest damage stat, though the jump between this and the flawless items is rather large. So again, if you can, I'd try and get flawless and just get a couple of strengthens in, as they're much stronger than the exquisite variants. As far as classic items go, there's not really any classic items I can recommend, as of course classic items don't come with that damage boost, which is essential for getting, as you'd imagine, as much damage as possible from the commander. So you definitely want to be using 2.0 items for him. As far as armour goes, the best 2.0 item you can use is the Berserker's Raiment. Reason for this being is it offers the highest amount of attack available. However, in the chest piece department, the only benefit of using a 2.0 item over a 1.0 is the HP, which gives your commander a little bit more survivability once the troops have gone. However, that has no direct input on the commander's damage output, so actually here 1.0 items can be very strong. The best 1.0 item you will want to use, there's quite a few. Personally, I would recommend the Durin's Plate, which offers a huge amount of attack as well as HP and damage output for your dwarven units. So if you use dwarves as his unit, you can get a little bit more survivability in the units themselves. That, of course, is in the flawless category. You can also do very well with the golden skin with the fine effect, and with this you can get an enormous amount of attack, as that item offers good attack, and the more refined you can get, the more bonus attack you can get as well. So you can see the version I have, you can get up to plus 50 attack that I have here, 51 in fact. As far as exquisite items go, there's again a very good choice. The best in slot will be the Goblin armor with the Gallant effect. If you get this fully strengthened, you get 36 bonus attack, and fully refined, that's an additional 18, so 54 bonus attack, which is huge and higher than anything 2.0 you will get even in the flawless rarity. You can also choose to use something like the Scale Mail with Gallant as well, which will be very strong and offers bonus unit defense as well. So whilst you get lower attack, so slightly less damage from your commander, you'll get a little bit more survivability from your units. And the classic Superior Hauberk is also a good choice, as you can get bonus attack from this, bonus unit defense again, and you could also use something like the Melee Vigor effect on it instead to get a bit more survivability in your units. Now, headgear falls into a very similar trend to the chest piece, in that the only difference between 2.0 and 1.0 is that lack of the HP stat. If you're looking for 2.0 flawless gear, the best in slot is the Cask of Pride, as this offers a very high amount of attack, a little bit of commander defense, and of course the HP as well. But the main thing we're looking for is to maximize that attack stat as much as possible. For 2.0 exquisite gear, we are looking at the Full Helm, which can offer, again, the maximum amount of attack, though it's a lot less than what you will get from the flawless gear. So definitely look to get flawless if you can. You'll see the difference here. You've got 18 attack on a maximum strengthened, and only on a 4-star strength I've got plus 40 attack. So sometimes the base item actually can be better as well. So let's see what we get from base. So plus 16. So if you can get one strengthen on a flawless Cask of Pride, it's worth using over the 2.0 Full Helm. Classic items, though, once again, can be very strong here. The best you're probably looking at in exquisite rarity is the Full Helm again. The exquisite fully strengthened classic Full Helm offers up to plus 45 attack, which is huge, and as I've said, that's very comparable to the Cask of Pride in the flawless 2.0 rarity. So that's almost completely worth using, of course, as you're using exquisite gear rather than wasting strengthening items in the flawless category. For classic flawless gear, though, you're again looking at the Cask of Pride. This can be a little bit lower attack than the 2.0 variant. However, what it does offer is bonus unit defense, which I think helps quite a lot in your survivability. So it's probably stronger than the 2.0 Cask of Pride, despite the HP difference given to your commanders. In accessory slot, you're looking at something very similar to the weaponry. You definitely want to be using a 2.0 accessory, as it does once again offer that damage stat. The best in slot is the Palantir of Orthanc, because it offers that bonus damage and the maximum amount of attack available. This is basically the Axe of Khazad-dûm in the accessory slot, so this is definitely the one you want to use. If you want an alternative, though, the Drums of Barad-dûr are also a very good choice, as they offer a large amount of attack and damage once again. As far as which set effects you want, if you're using a full set of 2.0 gear and you're looking to get an optimal set effect, in my opinion, either Perseverance or Might is the best choice here. I think probably Might comes out on top. Getting that plus 10% physical damage dealt by your formation can be very useful, particularly on King of Men, as that 10% will of course up his amount of commander damage, but also with that command stat you are getting a reasonable output from your troops as well, and they will also get and benefit from that plus 10%. So Might is definitely the way to go here for Aragorn, King of Men. Now let's take a look into his skill build. He does have quite a few skills here. The main two, however, will be his top respect 0 and his respect 3, as these are his commander damage dealing skills. Unfortunately, he suffers from a very similar issue to that of Dwalin in the tier 1 category, in that only 2 of his skills actually directly contribute to his commander damage, which does mean, of course, that you're going to have slightly lower damage output than, say, a very high respect Gimli or a Dane Ironfoot, of course, where you have multiple skills that offer damage from the commander. Because, of course, once you've maximised these 2, you're then limited by the amount of additional output you get. I'll quickly talk through the skill that's not going to be used, and that's the bottom respect 0, which is LSR. This is a healing skill that offers up to 180% HP being healed to 2 allied formations, modified by focus, every second round. And you can also increase the damage dealt by units a little bit as well. Of course, in Rise to War 2.0, healing and troop damage aren't particularly strong, so that's the reason we're not going to be looking to use this skill. However, in terms of the skills we are going to be using, the first we're going to look at is Anduril. Now, the first thing to say is to make sure that Anduril is the first skill that you are putting skill points into, as we want the level 5 or 5 skill points allocated bonus to activate before any other skills. But we'll talk through the skill quickly. So you gain 420% physical damage that you deal once to 2 enemy formations every 3rd round. So every 3rd round you're inflicting 840% physical damage because of the 2-round cooldown. Once you get 5 skill points allocated to this skill, your damage dealt increases by 10% for the next 2 rounds. So of course this doesn't affect the next activation of Anduril, which won't happen until the round after. However, it will directly affect any normal attacks or skills that activate in the meantime, which is why we want to try and get this first, so that that bonus damage activates before the Strider physical damage effect comes into effect. Now, and the level 10 skill is plus 5 attack for the commander, which is obviously always great, as plus 5 attack does mean the commander will be dealing more damage. Now, for his respect 3, this will be the second skill that you want to allocate your skill points to, and this is Strider. Now, this can get up to 540% physical damage being dealt once to 1 formation every 2nd round. So whilst Anduril deals that about 840% damage, but only every 3 rounds, this will deal every other round 540%. And of course, that is therefore affected by the activation of Anduril. So when this first hits off in the 3rd round after the 2-round cooldown, in the 4th round, when Strider activates, it will benefit from that bonus 10%, so actually you'll be dealing closer to 600% physical damage, which is why we want to scale in that order. Now, when you allocate 5 skill points, you do gain plus 5 initiative on the commander, which isn't massively beneficial. But with 10 skill points, you gain Keen Eye, which means that this skill ignores the target's evasion, so you can hit through popular evasions such as Gil-galad. Now, once you've maximised both of these, any remaining skill points you then want to put into the Respect 5 skill, which is King of Men. Now, this means that for the first 5 rounds, damage you deal by 3 allied formation units only will be increased, and when they're affected by effects such as stun or madness, the amount of damage they receive will decrease. If you have a high enough respect, which I think is Zenith 1, to maximise this, you can get up to 15% bonus damage from units, and they take up to 30% reduced damage after stun or madness. Now, this can be very useful, not so much the damage dealt, but the damage received buff of up to 30% can be huge, particularly with commanders like Sauron being very much in the meta, who deal a lot of stuns and madness through their bottom Respect 0 and Respect 3 skills. So actually receiving a significantly lower amount of damage can be very useful, of course, to keep your formation alive and lose the fewest units. the 5 skill point and 10 skill point variants aren't really that brilliant. Small unit attack plus 7, of course, helps to get that little bit additional troop damage, but it's not going to make a massive difference. But the level 10 means that when man units are stunned or affected by madness, the damage received reduction effect will be effective for the whole duration, basically meaning it won't only be while they're stunned, they'll get that effect for the entire remainder of the battle. But it's not a huge difference either way. Of course, the main thing we're looking at is increasing that commander damage, so the main thing is Anduril and Strider skilled in that order. Now we'll take a look at King of Men's Relic, which is Anduril itself. Now it's not the best item in the world. It offers additional command for him again, which does follow the pattern previously that he has high command. Of course, a lot of damage dealer relics offer commander HP in this spot, so this follows Aragorn's way of kind of being a mix between a damage dealer and a troop support commander. But the main thing we're looking at is that bonus commander attack of +6, which is in line with most of the other relics. Now, the actual effect of Anduril, Kingly Inspiration, is very, very mediocre in my opinion. Given a tiny amount of bonus damage and only a 50% chance, and limited to only men units, is just so specific and kind of ineffective as it's a troop support buff. As far as damage goes, so I just think this really isn't worth picking up. If you have any other commander around respect 10, I'd recommend picking them up instead, as they can have a lot more beneficial effects than Anduril. Of course, if you've got a lot of Mithril going spare, this relic can be worth picking up just for the bonus commander attack, but really it's not worth the cost compared to just getting slightly better gear, for example. Now, as far as what troops you want to look to use in your formation for Aragorn King of Men, it's kind of a little bit specific towards your gear. If you use the 1.0 Durin's Plate, like I mentioned earlier, the bonus HP will mean you'll probably want to use dwarves like the Guardian. Those aren't necessarily the best troop for him. If you're using King of Men kind of regularly without this item, you'll want to use men units. Reason being, of course, that a lot of his skills buff men units, and also his bloodline effect also buffs men units as well. The best men units for him, you'll want something that's tanky, can take the damage, soak it up, whilst Aragorn himself deals the majority of the damage. You've got a couple of choices for these. If you want a small unit, you can use the Guard of the Tower. These are very efficient, as it doesn't matter what campaign you're in, you'll pretty much always have these available. Of course, even in King of Men, where you normally have to build structures in order to get different types of troops, Guard of the Tower are the base troop, so they're readily available. They're very tanky, high defense, decent HP, so those would be my choice. If you're looking for a medium unit, you can also look to use the Cataphract, which is very similar to the Guard of the Tower, but a little bit tankier at the cost, of course, of more resource and more conscription time, but they do benefit from having the counter bonus against small units if you're using a full medium troop army. As a third slightly left field suggestion, you can also look to use the Seafarer. The Seafarer can be beneficial as it does actually have somewhat of a counter effect against damage dealing commanders by reducing the amount of damage that they can take from them. And also they have additional effectiveness on crossings, which is where the majority of battles happen, it seems, in Rise to War, so they can be very, very effective, the Seafarer unit. So if you have them available, they can be an excellent choice, though usually you'll look to use either the Cataphract or the Guard of the Tower. Now I'll put a couple of reports on kind of in the background to show how effective Aragorn King of Men can be while I give my final opinion. Now I think he can be a very effective commander personally. I do think as far as tier 3s go, he is quite a cost-effective commander. You don't have to push him up to enormous respect levels in order to get good output from him. I've had 100k plus damage from him multiple times, and I currently use him respect 5, but realistically his damage dealing skills only go up to respect 3, so if you're in early seasons or not looking to spend too much, you can actually just leave him at respect 3 and you'll still get pretty decent damage output from him. Of course, I can't really say he's free-to-play friendly, of course, as Tier 3 commanders are expensive, so they're never realistically going to be free-to-play friendly, but this is probably about as close as you're going to get. Would I say he's in the meta? Probably not, as of course Dane Ironfoot does have those additional damage dealing skills and a much higher attack stat, so therefore he's always going to deal more damage over the average of your season. So I'd probably recommend Dane Ironfoot over him, and also Beorn does also have much higher attack stat as well, so will deal more damage than Aragorn King of Men. But I do think he has his place in the meta, particularly around good side roleplay, where you're probably going to want to look to use something like Gandalf the White, Dane, Beorn, and then that fourth slot can definitely be taken up by Aragorn King of Men, as he can just deal that high amount of damage but still have that additional troop support from that high command stat. So I do think he is viable. Whilst he might not be top tier, he's definitely a viable commander. And with that, that's everything from me. If you have enjoyed this video, please smash the like button and consider subscribing to see more content from me in future. I am now putting out more commander guides as well as my seasonal update content as well. So yeah, just drop a subscribe and you'll see what's coming up in the future. And with that, I've been HJW Gaming, and I hope to see you on the next one.